All right.
There's now meetings streaming on. Yeah, I got a warning or a little notation too.
Oh, is it streaming?
Should be, yeah.
Sweet. Can you I don't think it. Oh, it does say live on Facebook. Maybe we are.
It's on mine, so
Everybody's
I can
getting
see
behind the scenes.
Yeah, here we go.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 425 show, your place to be for all things real estate and lifestyle related here on the East Side. I'm your host, Nicole Mangina with Windermere Real Estate. Thanks so much for joining us. We always start with a real estate update, kind of the same as the last couple of weeks, which is the market's good. It's strong. I think things are super price dependent. I am seeing, like a lot of markets, not just this one, where the things that are priced well, they're selling very quickly, usually in 2 weeks or less. The things that aren't, they're sitting, but as soon as the price gets adjusted, then we're seeing those sell quickly as well. So really, if you are a seller, thinking about selling, I encourage you to reach out. The market is definitely in your favor, and we've got lots of protocols in place to keep you healthy, keep your home clean, all of those things that are always necessary, but now even more so with what we have going on. And, if you're thinking about buying, there are some good options out there. If you've got real estate on the brain, I always invite you to reach out. You can find me via email, nicole@nicolemangina.com. There you go. I'm excited for our guest today. I always am excited for our guests, but this one I think is so perfect for what we have going on right now. We've got Sheri Gazitt joining us with Teenwise to talk about all kinds of things, joy, parenting in quarantine. It's different.
Very different.
So thank you for joining us, Sheri. I appreciate you being here. We've had you on the show before, and this just seems things have shifted. And so to revisit this topic, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, some tips about what we can be doing, now as we're kind of homeschooling, and that, I realize we only have about 3 weeks left of that. Hooray. But, now we're going to go into a summer as well that looks very different. Camps aren't going to be the same, summer jobs, all of that. So yeah, thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can you tell us about parenting with everybody at home all the time?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, for those of you with the young ones, it's a whole different ballgame because you're having to kind of hold their hand a bit more and be there with them, especially with the online schooling.
Yeah.
For those with tweens and teens, it's a whole different ballgame. There's a little bit of hand holding, but they really are in the time of their life where they're supposed to be pushing you away and individuating, but here they are stuck with you like 24/7. It's absolutely against everything in their being to be with their mom and dad like all the time. So it's important that we remember that from their point of view, that when they're getting cranky or when they're just down and not motivated to do schoolwork or they're not doing their chores, we have to realize that this is just not normal for them in any way, shape, or form. Not for us either, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah. So the fact that I keep wanting to snuggle them all day long and like watch movies on the couch with them, and that they don't want to do that with me.
Right.
Yeah. You're telling me that's normal.
That's normal. Yeah. And it's interesting because it is so different than what they're wired for. You might see those times even with your high schoolers where they do want loves and snuggles, maybe not physically, but they want you around, they want you to be there. And then other times they're just like, I don't want to see your face, It's like you need to move away. And because normally they would be out to deal with the emotions they're going through, they would be hanging with their friends and they would be, going to hang at the park or, go to the movies, whatever. But now instead they're stuck looking at us like so many hours of the day.
Yeah.
It's my 16-year-old said to me the other day, Mom, you're always in my face. And literally I'm not, but that's what it feels like for her.
Yeah, it's funny, like you said, there's sometimes they're into it and sometimes they're not. My designated work from home space really has always been the kitchen counter at our island, but now especially. And so the kids, they kind of have to see me when they come to get food.
All right.
And some days they just come and get food and they leave. And other days they'll kind of hang out. We have a little chat and, might be 30 seconds, might be 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
But some days they're more up for engaging than others.
Yeah. And I think the bottom line is that we as parents can't take it personally. They're doing their job of pushing us away and being their own people. So while we're like, oh my gosh, we get our teens at home, we normally don't get to see them that much. And, they're just not having it.
Yeah. Fine. So when they don't want to do crafts with me and go for walks, I should.
Right. Yeah. Can't take it personally. But we have to be mindful that we as parents and them, we're all going through these crazy range of emotions. And for the teens whose amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, is in hyperdrive, like their emotions can vary widely, like in an hour, like we might be more like day to day as adults, but for them, it's like the morning they wake up and things are great. By noon, if they're up by then, then things are like, they've gone to crap for some reason, and then they're happy again. It just, it's just all over the place.
Yeah. So and by the way, I should mention, you have Teenwise Seattle. So you do coaching for parents. And that's why you're here. So if you are struggling with teens or really kids of any age, I mean, it's not just teens,
right?
They can reach out to you because you help people with this. This is what you do.
Absolutely. And I don't normally offer a lot of parent strategy sessions, but right now parents are really struggling. So normally I'm like, come coach with me for 3 months. But right now I am offering like one-off sessions just to kind of come up with different parent strategies, or if you're having a really tough time with communication or not quite understanding the cycles your tweens and teens are going through, then you can contact me and we can just have an hour together and talk it out and come up with some really specific parenting strategies to get through it.
I think that's great. And I think I have learned so much from other people as a parent. I remember when our kids were babies, you think like the little fairy godmother kind of gets you with the wand on each shoulder, and you know how to tell if a baby's a boy or a girl, which I didn't get that one. When somebody else has a baby and they're all bundled up and you're supposed to be able to say, oh, that's a sweet little boy or a girl when they're 3 months old. I never figured that part out. But also that you're just supposed to know how to parent. And it takes a village. And for me, at least, a lot of outside input has been incredibly helpful. So to have resources available and people that can give you ideas is great, especially when you're in the thick of it. I know our boys, sometimes they're super quiet. I'm like, can't you just tell me how you feel? Tell me your emotions. Let's talk about this. And they just look at me like I have 3 heads.
Yeah. Well, and also, talking to other people and getting outside perspective really helps you, because we kind of get it in our brains. It needs to be this way. We need to parent a certain way. Or we hop on social media and you see the parents who have the ultimate schedule and their kids are following, and if you're not like that, you start to feel inadequate as a parent. And so you may try to implement that in your house and it doesn't work, but you're like, we're gonna do this. And then you're at odds with your teens or your tweens, and all of a sudden you're having communication issues and anger issues. So we just have to, talk to somebody else. So we're like, okay, I can just relax a little bit. It's all okay.
Yeah. So what are some tips you can share with us with right now? And what are some of the things that you're seeing with the kids when they're at home? I know ours, I won't say they're withdrawn, but they're definitely, they're kind of in their rooms doing their homework. And then they really come out and engage at night, because that's when they can hop online with their video games with their friends.
Right.
That's their chance to then connect.
Right. Yeah, we have to really be mindful that this is an unprecedented time. And we have to take some cues from our kids, whether they're little or teens, whatever age they are, of what they need. So our teens, where they're normally supposed to be out hanging with friends and stuff, their way to individuate is they're going to their room. That's their space. That's getting out of their parents' way and just having their time. So a lot of our tweens and teens are going to be in their rooms for long hours. And, some people take it personally. Others like, you can't do that. You have to be out here in the main space. But I think, it's their way of getting away from us, because normally they'd be in school for how many hours a day, right?
Right.
Or at their extracurriculars, and they would be away from us. So their room is just their escape. We have to be mindful of that. And also figure out what it means for them to connect. Video games, it's a very popular topic right now, especially for boys. That's their way to connect. And while we see them sitting on a screen, sitting on the couch, we have to realize they are connecting with people. And
Right.
so, we just need to be mindful of that. Not that they should be playing for 8 hours a day, but it's going to be more than normal because they need that connection.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for our girls, their connection is their phone. They're
Mhm.
doing a lot more social media, but that's a
Right.
way to connect. A lot of texting, a lot of FaceTime. So we do have to be mindful. They need a little more screen time in their day because that's their connection. Just like we're on Zoom all the time, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were talking about the social media. I thought it was interesting, and I was really happy to hear it. So our youngest, they both have Instagram accounts, and he noticed, at least in the beginning or a couple weeks into it, um, he was getting all of these alerts because he had it, whenever people would post something, he would get an alert. And he was talking about, there was a group of people that were always like, they were basically getting together, I think, and hanging out and,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
doing big group things. And it didn't feel good, right? Because we're all sitting at home.
Right.
Doing our little self-distancing, whatever it is. And then there's these other people that are blatantly doing something else. And, I don't think we need to get into, is that the right or the wrong thing to do? I think everybody needs to do them. Whatever works for you right now, fine. But he was just noticing that didn't make him feel good to get those notifications. So he actually went in and turned them all off so that, if he wants to, he can go and check in and see what's going on, but he's not constantly getting bombarded with outside things that just weren't working for him. And I thought that was great that he figured that out.
Yeah, it's really good. For social media, when we're talking about like really young kids, really young, meaning like 13, 12, 13, when they're hopping on, we definitely need to be there to guide them more. But I always recommend the conversations and self-realization for them versus the parent saying, this is awful, you can't do this. Because when we just look at it as a negative, then they turn us off because they're like, well, there's positive to this too. My parents don't get it. So we have to make sure we weigh it and talk about the good and the bad in that stuff.
I love it. What else? We were talking about joy a little bit before we got started on the show.
Yes.
Talk about joy, because that's always a topic that feels good.
Yeah, it's my favorite topic. I talk a lot about how important it is for parents to create space for joy in their homes. And normally, when we're in school, I talk a lot about how we allow busyness, like this badge of honor of being busy and stressed out. We allow that to displace joy in our lives. And we as parents are the ones who are the heart of the home, and we're creating the feel for the home. And right now, more than ever, we have to create space for joy. And so we're role models. If we're going around complaining about sheltering in place and we're complaining about the things we don't have and we can't do, then our kids, that's filtering down to them and entering into their heart and their soul. So we have to make sure that joy is in our home. And no matter what your situation, no matter what you're going through, for us right now, it's shelter in place, right? But there's people who are grieving, people who are incarcerated, domestic abuse, all these situations, we always can find slivers of joy here and there. And I think it's very important that right now, even if you're in your household, it's not so calm right now, if maybe it's financial issues, whatever it may be, that you are creating space for joy. And the way I like to think of it is that you can have joy. So CAN. So C is you create the space for it and the time for it. That means not being busy all the time. A means you allow it. So if your kids are doing online schooling and you catch them laughing and goofing around, don't just immediately swoop in and say, no, it's school time, you need to get it together. Allow that to happen. And then the N is to notice it. Like, notice the little things that bring you joy. Like if you're wearing fuzzy slippers, oh my gosh, I love my slippers. They're so cute. I get to wear them more than I normally do, things like that. So yeah, I think that's important because your kids are watching you and seeing whether or not you're having joy in the household or not.
That I needed to hear that today.
Yeah.
We're doing a pretty good job at that, but I think we can always do a little bit better.
Right. And I think that the big thing is when I talk to clients and parents about joy, like what have you done in your life lately for joy? They think really big things. So like Disneyland, or I need to do more hikes, or, start thinking big, but really it's the small, tiny things like saying good morning, when you normally don't get to see your kids in the morning, or making a, cup of tea for somebody. It doesn't have to be these big, long things. It can literally be 30 seconds, but it's that moment to just allow your heart and your soul to soak in a moment that just brings you contentment and happiness.
Yes. I'm laughing because you're talking about saying good morning. So I have a little good morning song that I sing to the kids. I'm not doing it on the radio, but I sing good morning to the kids every morning.
Oh,
It brings
come
me-
on, Nicole. I've been waiting all for this entire episode, I think. All right,
Oh,
we'll let you get
I'm
off air.
dying to hear it
Well,
now.
me too. See, right? We'll let her pass. She's blushing. So
I know.
Yeah.
It brings me immense joy to sing good morning to them. I think it brings them
Aw.
zero joy.
Right.
It just makes them hide under their covers more.
Right. Yeah. They probably make fun of you and laugh at you,
do.
but still bring you
but
joy.
they'll remember it, right? They'll remember that though.
Yes, absolutely. They will. Yeah, and I think as parents, it's okay like when we do these silly, cheesy little things. If your kids are eye rolling and like, oh my gosh, stop. They're soaking it in. They are soaking it in.
I think so. That's what I tell myself anyway.
Right. It's all good.
And you're right. There's so many little things. You mentioned slippers. I have fuzzy socks. They make me incredibly happy to wear my fuzzy socks every day.
Yeah, right now, we just have to dress from the waist up. I mean, I do have
Totally.
pants on, but I don't have shoes on, and I'm like, I just need to worry, does this all come together?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I know one of my favorite clothing stores, Via Lago, downtown Kirkland. That's a part of our whole marketing campaign. It's like how to rock your Zoom meeting, right? So it's all
Right.
about scarves and,
That's so smart.
whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and you're right. There's so many, and that's, I think, been one of the gifts of this whole thing is taking pleasure in the smaller things, right? Sitting at the dinner table together. I love when they kind of wander in and out and get their snacks during the day. And,
Right.
even if all they say is hello, that makes me happy to be able to, to see them. And, even we were talking about this before the show as well. We've got a couple sets of friends that we've been doing lots of like backyard, kind of sit around the fire pit, maybe have a glass of wine, and catch up, a couple times a week. And that's just been really nice. And one of my girlfriends commented on that. She goes, I love that it's just about the joy of being together, right? Maybe have a glass of wine or water, but it's not like the dinner party. And did you make the right dish? Was it, complicated enough? Did you pair the right wine with the, all of that stuff? Like, we're just really happy to sit outside and hang out with somebody.
Yeah, and I've noticed we've been doing more walks in our neighborhood, and it's like a throwback to the 1940s or something. People are out in their yards, the kids are playing, people are taking family walks. It used to be you'd walk through our neighborhood and it was really quiet.
Yeah.
And our houses are kind of spaced out, but now you walk through and you hear laughter and you hear, people bouncing the basketball around, and we didn't see that before. People are really taking the time to connect and to just hang out and do the stuff that's not so scheduled.
Yeah, exactly. I know, I feel like we've explored our neighborhood. I've been on so many streets walking in the last couple months than I ever have before. And it was really sweet. We were walking as a family the other day and we walked by a house and there was a guy who was trying to move a stackable washer and dryer into his house by himself. And
oh my gosh,
kind of awkward, right? So Gary, my husband's like, hey, do you need some help with that? Sure. So he helps him. They move it all in. And that's just, it seems so simple, but that was just such a nice moment, right? We were walking, we're exploring the neighborhood. You see an opportunity to help somebody and you do, and then you just go on with your day. But that's the stuff when we're all racing around, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Like you might have in the, should we call it the real world before all of this, you might have driven by and seen that, but you would be like, oh, we're too busy. We can't stop to help.
Exactly.
Even if you wanted to, you'd be like, no, I got to get to the baseball game or, something else.
We're already late. We got to go.
Yeah.
So
that is like a joy that I think people are finding right now, amidst all of the other emotions that are going on, because there's a lot of them. Like we're grieving right now as a society, the society we used to have, but we're also like shedding some stuff that we're like, we don't need all that. Like we don't need to go shopping all the time, or we don't need to have everything scheduled. We can just be a little bit more.
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, it is.
In fact, we were talking, my husband and I were talking about that this morning because we just yesterday got the emails for the first round of baseball tournaments at the end of this month. And it's like, oh, here we go. We're back to divide and conquer.
Right.
Off we go again.
Mhm.
And he brought it up. He's like, okay, but what parts do we want to hang on to? How are we going to take, some of these joy moments and, this time with our kids, and what out of this, not what matters, how do we want to recreate this? And what are we willing to hold on to going forward?
Yeah, I think it's a very important time for families to really stop and reprioritize before things start to open back up.
Right.
Because, there's going to be this natural wanting to go back to how we were.
Right.
But we don't have to. Like you can make a decision as a parent. I'm not going to allow all this other stuff to come in again. Be more selective. So for you guys, it's baseball, but what about all the other stuff that fills your time? Maybe some of that goes by the wayside, or maybe you're a person who, makes dinners every single night. And maybe you're like, 2 nights a week, we're not going to do that. So we just have more time to hang out, or, whatever it is, like for your family to really stop and reflect and have a family meeting about it before you go back to school in August or September. Like, what are the things that we enjoy about right now? What brings us joy, and what are we gonna not bring back into our lives?
Yeah, I like that. I like you said, a family meeting, like including the kids in that. My husband and I have talked about it, certainly. But asking the kids, I'm interested to hear what they have to say.
Yeah. To see what they like about this time. And sometimes, it takes asking them for them to stop and reflect on it, because, our teens are a little bit moody about this fact that they don't get to go hang out with their friends or go do their normal activities. But if you ask them, there's probably things they do enjoy about it. Like one of the things you mentioned, the social media issue, and there's the fear of missing out when you're looking at social media.
For sure.
But for some kids, they're looking at that and they're like, oh, they're gathering, but you know what? They really shouldn't be gathering. I don't feel left out at all. So it's a little bit different. And because there's not so many gatherings in the social arena, at least, there's less pressure to be with somebody all the time, to have the perfect Instagram pictures and, show that you're a social person and have friends. There's a lot of release in that. So, maybe social media is something that our kids reprioritize as well.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this all plays out. For sure. And, they've certainly been doing lots of video games, but I think they're going to be just as happy to go back to it as well.
Yeah.
Our kids are starting to get some practices in, and they're really enjoying that time with their friends.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be the first time in a long time where the kids are super excited to go back to school in the fall, assuming they get to go back. It's going to be, instead of I have to go to school, it's going to be more like I can go to school. So it's going to open a whole new world in that arena, because they have been not allowed to do this. And now all of a sudden it's going to be added back.
I'm fascinated by that too, right? As parents, we're always like, education's a privilege. And, I don't know if they're going to view the whole education part as a privilege, but certainly the contact part of it will be a privilege.
Hanging with friends. They'll get it.
But it will be interesting. Like our kids have commented, they are not loving the online learning experience. They're getting enough out of it to get by, but our youngest has commented several times that he just does not learn that way. It's just so much easier for him when he can go and see a physical person, and there's movement going on, and he just learns better that way. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out in the fall in terms of how they view and interact with that educational experience now, having had this whole online experience.
Well, and it's interesting, Nicole, because there's other kids who are like, I love this online learning.
Yeah.
I mean, every kid is different. And that's
Right.
we have to really realize. Other kids are like, they're on it. They get their stuff on Monday and they've got it scheduled out. They can't wait to dive in. And other kids, Wednesday, maybe they've looked at the emails, like,
That's our house.
oh yeah, I know. And so I mean, just every kid is different. So this is a time for us as parents, because our kids are at home, to really get to learn a little bit more about them as far as their personality, are they organized or not? Where do they need some guidance? And how social are they? And take those cues from them. So we really get the opportunity to know our kids on a different level because we're around them a lot more.
Yeah, we are. And that's really good. That's a good reminder and good insight. Like, we're getting to see, because we always wonder what happens with our kids once they go out the door to school.
Right.
Right. We're like, who knows?
Right.
We're kind of getting that look behind the curtain that gives us opportunity for more discussion, but is allowing us to really see how we can help and advocate for our kids more and, just be better for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Most definitely.
Yeah, there's so much going on right now. And I think that our kids have a lot of wisdom and they know themselves better than anybody else. If we can just tap into that, it's a big time for personal growth. And going into the next year, like having some new data points and some new information about our kids of how we can support them, what brings them joy, and to allow that joy to happen instead of fighting the system, so to speak. Like with the video games, there's some parents who are like, I know it brings them joy, but I'm not going to let them play video games at all, or I give them 2 hours a week, or, I get it. But at the same time, we need to let them have the joy that they can find.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure they're doing other things other than just video games. But I think that we do need to just, cut them a little slack and let them get joy where they can find it.
That's such a good message. I so appreciate that. You've shared so much great information with us today. Thank you, Sheri. If you're just tuning in, we've had Sheri Gazitt on the show today. You run Teenwise, and and people can find you at teenwise.com. Is that correct?
Teenwiseseattle.com.
Teenwiseseattle.com.
Yeah. And then I have a webinar on Thursday night coming up that's free, and it's all about creating space for joy in your teen's life. And actually child's life, I'm doing, kind of goes for all ages. And so people can register with the tinyurl.com/2020joy. And we're going to talk about more specifics on how to allow for joy to be their priority in your household. So, because when you prioritize joy, what you're actually doing is fostering motivation and success. And a lot of people think the success comes first and then joy and happiness are later. But you can have a 2.5 GPA and be super successful if you find the joy and excitement in life. So we just need to remember where our priorities are. The mental health is first and academics next. And it can really make a big difference in your household if you take that shift on and embrace it.
Awesome. Perfect. We'll make sure we have links to all of that on the website after the show, NicoleMangina.com/podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today, Sheri. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's fun as always.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, ladies, all clear. Nice job.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Welcome.